1918. godine je od epidemije španjolske gripe u 2 godine umrlo 50 milijuna ljudi. 50 godina kasnije hongkonška gripa ubrala je manji danak, ali ipak milijun života. 30 godina kasnije navodno došlo je do epidemije ptičje gripe. Navodno, jer je od nje umrlo oko 260 ljudi. Što ćete, ni epidemije više nisu kao što su bile. Slično je i s novim hitom, svinjskom gripom. Kao što kaže stara narodna pjesma, nismo je vidjeli, ali smo čuli glase. Ali među zborskim i ugođenim glasovima čuli smo i nekoliko koji su kvarili harmoniju. Kvarili su je informacijama. Jedan od tih glasova pripada austrijskoj novinarki, nekadašnjoj dopisnici Observera, Guardiana i British Health magazina. Jane Burgermeister nije ostala samo na glasu. U travnju 2009. godine je državnom tužiteljstvu u Beču podnijela kaznenu prijavu protiv tvrtke Baxter i drugih radi razvijanja, proizvodnje, oslobađanja i raspačavanja biološkog oružja za masovno uništenje. Pomoću uvođenja obveznog cijepljenja protiv lažne pandemije svinjske gripe, tvrdi ona, izazvat će se globalna pandemija ptičje gripe. Kako smatra da su te kompanije razvijale biokemijsko oružje u suradnji s takozvanim iluminatima ili grupom Bilderberg, Jane Burgermeister otišla je korak dalje. U kaznenoj prijavi FBI-u upozorila je na najveći zločin u povijesti čovječanstva. U prijavi je za urotu, bioterorizam i zločin protiv čovječanstva optužila Svjetsku zdravstvenu organizaciju, Ujedinjene narode, Baracka Obamu, njegovu državnu tajnicu za zdravstvo Kathleen Sibelius, kolegicu za domovinsku sigurnost Janet Napolitano, direktoricu Svjetske zdravstvene organizacije Margaret Chan i bankare Davida Rothschilda i Davida Rockefellera. Tko su ti ljudi koji žele prorijediti čovječanstvo prisiljavajući ljude na otrovno cijepljenje protiv izmišljenih pandemija? Zašto to čine i kako? Novinarka Jane Burgermeister sudu je podastrla dokaze za svoje tvrdnje. S njima je doletjela u Zagreb da ih razmotrimo i ovdje, na Rubu Znanosti. Sve vas pozdravljam. Ovo je Jane Burgermeister, već ste čuli ponešto u uvodu emisije. Ostatak slijedi po putu, dok ćemo korak po korak pokušati osvijetliti što se to krije iza trenutno svjetski najvažnije vijesti, a to je navodna pandemija, navodne svinjske gripe. Dobar dan. Vratimo se nekoliko koraka unatrag. Kada je počela vaša istraga koja je rezultirala prvo kaznenom prijavom protiv tvrtke Baxter i drugih, a onda ćemo vidjeti kuda vas je to dovelo?
I started investigating in February of this year when I found out that a global bird flu pandemic had nearly been triggered. I found out by chance. I was shown, a neighbor came and showed me a report in a local paper saying that 36 people had had to be treated for the bird flu preventatively in a hospital in Vienna and also in one in the Czech Republic. They had to be treated against this very dangerous disease because they had been handling material contaminated with the live bird flu virus that had been sent out by Baxter Pharmaceuticals. The material had been sent out from the facilities that Baxter has close to Vienna, and that's how I found that a global bird flu pandemic had nearly been triggered by the pharmaceutical company Baxter this February.
O kojim se količinama kontaminiranog materijala radilo?
We're talking about 72 kilos, which is an enormous amount of contaminated material. And this was manufactured in the facilities of Orton the Donau and sent to 16 laboratories via a laboratory called Aver Green Hills, close to where I live. And it was only detected by a person employed by the Czech laboratory of Biotest, who injected it into ferrets, and the ferrets apparently became very ill, and then they destroyed these ferrets and found out that the vaccine material was contaminated with the live bird flu virus. So we're talking about gigantic quantity of material contaminated with this virus.
Baxter je rekao da je riječ o pogrešci. Vi baš ne vjerujete u tu priču?
I certainly find it very difficult to believe because the bird flu virus is one of the most lethal there is, with a 60% mortality rate, and it is classified as a biosafety level 3 or 4 virus, and that means that pharmaceutical companies are required to handle it using extra precautions. For example, it has to be kept in a separate laboratory, it has to be kept with, people have to handle it with special clothing. There have to be double doors to kind of protect it from stray people walking in. Its whereabouts are tracked using codes, electronic codes. So extremely comprehensive safety measures have to be implemented when you're handling this kind of a virus. The other question is, why did Baxter have it in the first place? Who, the World Health Organization, gave Baxter this virus? But Baxter, in its facilities in Orthodona, just makes ordinary seasonal flu. It's not clear why they had this virus in the first place, how it came to contaminate 72 kilos of normal vaccine material, and how it managed to get undetected out of the facilities with the wrong label. So I believe it was deliberate, and I filed criminal charges because I believed it was deliberate. And the public prosecutor ordered and instructed the police to investigate because the evidence was quite strong that it was deliberate.
Koji je sadržaj kaznene prijave? Za što ste optužili Baxter?
I charge them with deliberately trying to start a pandemic and of also trying to profit from starting that pandemic, because Baxter in Austria has sealed contracts with the government to supply pandemic vaccinations in the event of a pandemic emergency. My initial charges were concerning, attempted mass murder and profit from that mass murder. Those were my first set of charges.
Pričamo o travnju 2009. godine. Da li ima nekih pomaka do danas?
I rang the public prosecutor today, and all I know is that the police in Korneuburg, which is where Baxter has its facilities, are still investigating this case. My understanding is that some of the, Baxter is very, very powerful indeed. Behind Baxter are very significant forces. I believe even President Obama has shares in Baxter, according to some sources. So to actually go and kind of arrest Baxter executives or something like that would be an extremely difficult thing for the Austrian police to do. I guess, particularly because it seems like the health minister and the chancellor of Austria, Werner Faymann, are involved in covering up what Baxter has done, and possibly even in promoting Baxter's activities. So a lot of political pressure seems to be being exercised on the police to not make any arrests or investigate too much.
Cijepiva i farmaceutska industrija inače imaju dugu i mračnu povijest. Međutim, stvar postoji još zanimljivija ako nam ispričate o vašoj sljedećoj kaznenoj prijavi koja daleko nadilazi austrijske okvire i kontaminirane materijale u samom Baxteru. Znači, pričamo o FBI-u. Možete nam ispričati sadržaj kaznene prijave FBI-u i što vas je na nju potaklo?
Sure. What happened was I'd barely filed this set of charges concerning the bird flu pandemic when just a few days later, I think I filed my charges on the 8th of April. I think about the 16th or 18th of April, the swine flu pandemic broke out in Mexico City, about 50 kilometers from a Baxter facility. President Obama was visiting Mexico City, and an archaeologist called Felipe Solis, who met him, died the next day from the swine flu. And within a few days, the World Health Organization announced that it was about to declare a pandemic level 6 emergency. And I knew that that meant that there could be forced vaccinations, forced quarantines in the USA and elsewhere. And then I filed a second set of charges alleging that this had been a deliberate attempt to start a pandemic by the same group of people, really, Baxter, the World Health Organization. And because there was evidence that President Obama was directly involved, that the swine flu appeared in Mexico City just coincidentally with his visit, and somebody he'd met had died the next day, I actually directly named him in those charges, as well as the other key figures who I believe are behind Baxter, whether you're talking about financial power, like the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds, or government officials who allow Baxter to proceed with its activities with impunity, like Kathleen Sebelius, the US Health Secretary.